Welcome to the Sportsbook Review NBA Preview Show. I'm Joe Duffy of OffshoreInsiders.com, and along with Troy West of TroyWins.com, we are going to preview the weekend portfolio in the NBA. Before I do get to Troy, please make sure that you subscribe to all of the Sportsbook Review's YouTube videos. Subscribe right this very second. And if you do have any questions or comments, please do so. We will answer any questions or comments. I even saw somebody was second-guessing one of Troy's picks in advance and, of course, had the last laugh. You know, Troy, it's kind of funny because I will say that in all my years in this industry, I found that when somebody second-guesses you in advance, that's the ultimate contrarian play. It very rarely happens. I get emails all the time where people second-guess me after the picks are over,
Sure.
Especially in Major League Baseball where I pick underdogs. And, of course, even in other sports, I tend to pick, you know, bad teams, big underdogs, etc. People are always second-guess you beforehand. I've been in this business for about 30 years. Maybe about a dozen or so times somebody will second-guess me before the game starts. And those picks seem to hit at about, 80%, 90%. And I knew a guy in this industry, went by the name of Chuck Franklin. He was a handicapper on the score phones, and he got his start where he worked in Vegas. He was one of the, whatever they call them, the ticket writers, the tellers. And he said anytime somebody would come up and say, I cannot believe this line. It's the most ridiculous line ever. It's a lock. Yeah, give me Philadelphia minus the 4. And then after doing all that trash talking, they would bet like $20, $30. So he would tell me what he would do was to run out to the other casinos. Of course, he couldn't bet in his own sports book. He would run out to the other casinos, bet the other side, and that was his best form of handicapping ever. But congratulations on making that guy be quiet.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Joe. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, like you said, it's a good feeling when people lash out with you pre-game. Doesn't happen often, like you said. Many people lash out after, but that was one of those situations where we got a strong lash out before. But, hey, we take all the criticism we can, and we answer it the best we can as well. So.
Yeah, we definitely got to have thick skin in this industry. Well, like I said, Troy and I will be taking a look at the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday portfolio. I guess this is one of our last two shows of the regular season. We'll certainly be here throughout the NBA playoffs. But, Troy, why don't we start out with the Friday card?
Yeah, Joe, two games that I actually really do like Friday. One, I think, is a letdown spot, and that's going to be the Indiana Pacers. They got a huge win the other night at home against the Golden State Warriors. They ended up winning that game by 20 points. Now they're on the road in what's actually a critical game for Toronto. They hold the lead still in the Eastern Conference, but much at stake in terms of seeding tonight. They're minus 7.5 at home. I think Toronto bounces back in a big way. I think the Pacers have a letdown game coming off the 20-point win at home, now traveling into Toronto. Never an easy travel. I like Toronto minus the 7.5 tonight. And then I'm going right back to the team I probably shouldn't go right back to. Hasn't necessarily been a covering machine, but they have been playing much better, and I've been talking to them about them throughout the course of the year, and that's the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron James gets another big win the other night. We know that they beat Toronto the other night by 6. That's the game we talked about earlier. They are getting 4 points against the 76ers. This has potential to be a playoff matchup, but I think the absence of Joel Embiid is going to actually play against Philadelphia pretty heavily in this one. I was kind of surprised to see them minus 4. I think LeBron James is going to enjoy going into Philadelphia. Philadelphia doesn't really have anybody that can necessarily guard LeBron. I think he has another big night. And I think the Cavaliers possibly take an outright win and definitely get within the 4. So those are the two I like for Friday.
It's funny you should mention that, Troy. That was probably the most interesting line that I can remember, in the past few months. Maybe, even the past year as far as the 76ers, without their star player, being a pretty big home favorite to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this is, maybe you could probably argue it's more of a statement game. In fact, I'll go so far as to say it is more of a statement game for the 76ers than it is the Cavaliers. Look, the Cavaliers, they've been there and done that with their star player. But yeah, Joel Embiid is out. He is the best player on the 76ers. And yeah, the Sixers have won 12 in a row straight up. But I think, we've got to say that the odds makers are telling us maybe this 76ers plan was a pretty good one. Their best player is out, and yet they are favored against the Cleveland Cavaliers in a game that's for the number 3 seed. But yeah, I don't know, Troy. You seem to imply it. Did this game strike you? This line was probably the most striking line I've seen in a long time either way.
No, absolutely. I agree, because you wonder if Joel Embiid was in the lineup, what are they favored by? They really favor the 76ers by 6, 7, even 8 points. I mean, you got to think Embiid's worth a few points in that spread. So, yeah, it was quite shocking, and maybe it is a trap, but boy, I think Cleveland has the better lineup, especially with Embiid out. Cleveland, not as, this isn't LeBron's best supporting cast, but Kevin Love's starting to play a little bit better. We saw a little glimpse of Tristan Thompson, Jeff Green. Those guys are starting to play better. So I was shocked to see him as a 4-point dog. Absolutely.
And I think the first NBA show that Troy and I did together, one of our topics was who were the best long shots, et cetera. And I did single out the 76ers. I thought they were the best long shot. And right now, that's looking like possibly a pretty good prediction. I said I don't like to bet futures because I don't want that to bias me to make those day-to-day adjustments. So it was a prediction, not an actual bet. But I said I thought the 76ers could be peaking late, and how well they've played. And I think the 3, maybe it's 4 games without Embiid has been pretty stunning. But yeah, this line was crazy. Well, speaking of such, Friday games, teams with a -5 or worse ATS margin. And again, some people know this as the sweat barometer, but it's a regression of the mean angle. Cleveland has not been very good spread-wise this year, and especially when it comes to their spread margin. If there is a -5 gap between the two teams, go with the team that's been worse this year, ATS. That would benefit Cleveland at a 16.54 and 14.47 rate. Well, the presumed tanking angle was doing pretty well this year. It did go 0-2 yesterday, but teams that we would think would be tanking, battling for that, that worst record where they can have the most lottery balls. And I know they've changed the lottery a little bit, but it's all about perception. The worst teams with a winning percentage of 310 or less to teams with a winning percentage of 390 or above, pretty impressive, 244 and 176 over the last 2 years. And as I said, once you get past the 54 loss mark, it gets even better, but that would benefit Orlando against Charlotte, the Mavericks against the Pistons, the Suns against the Pelicans, and the Hawks and the Wizards tonight. You have a classic case of the road team being more rested. I like to explain it once every report, but about 70% of the time when you have a more rested team, it's usually the home team that's more rested. The other 30%, as far as I'm concerned, that means a normal home court advantage does not apply, and my computer agrees when the road team is more rested. 641 and 562, that would benefit the Atlanta Hawks. Well, Troy, how about the Saturday card?
Yeah, Saturday, 2 games again, Joe, and all the viewers at this point in the year before we get into the playoffs, lineups are so critical to really pay attention. So obviously we're a couple of games ahead, but I like Oklahoma City on the road in Houston. This game for Houston really has no meaning. As I said, Mike D'Antoni does say, he comes out and says, hey, we're not resting anybody. We're going pedal to the metal going into the playoffs. I don't necessarily buy that. I could see James Harden's minutes minimizing here in the regular season, getting some extra rest for the playoffs. I could see the same with Chris Paul and Capella. And this is still an Oklahoma City team that needs the win for seeding purposes. So seeing where the line's at, I like Oklahoma City tomorrow. Joe, let me double check my notes one more. I like the Pelicans on the road in the Warriors. Big game for the Pelicans. Warriors are in get-right mode, but they're getting guys healthy still. Klay Thompson doesn't look necessarily right. Durant's still kind of all over the place. Big game for the Pelicans. It'll be interesting to see where the line's at, but you just saw Golden State lose by 20 on the road. That doesn't happen often. This is a big one for the Pelicans. So if the Pelicans are a substantial underdog in that game, I like them to come out with a little bit more firepower than the Warriors. So those are the 2 games I like for Saturday.
And it's interesting, I also had that game circled, the Thunder and the Rockets, but you are right, much like I said with the 76ers, maybe a little bit more of a statement game for them, and I do agree with you, obviously, a battle of 2, Western contenders, but a little bit more of a statement game for the Thunder. In addition, that does fit into my, the road team actually has 2 more days rest, similar but not the same as the angle I said above as far as yesterday. There is some overlapping, of course, but when the road team has 2 more days rest, they're 567 and 488 against the spread. The, Hawks and the Celtics, that presumed tanking angle that I explained would benefit the Hawks as well as the Grizzlies against the, I'm sorry, I'm actually looking at my Sunday notes. So we'll get to the Sunday portfolio in a moment. But yeah, Troy, what are you looking at on Sunday? And I already gave a hint what I'm looking at on Sunday, but tell me about what you've got for the Sunday card.
Yeah, just one game Sunday, Joe. It seems like these two teams have played 30 times this year, but the Golden State Warriors at the Phoenix Suns, I know they've only obviously played their fourth time, but boy, it seems like they play every week. I like the over in this game. These are two teams that, down the stretch here, I can't see a lot of defense playing. I can see a lot of threes being chucked up. I think this game's a 120 to 115 type of game, 120, 110. I like this thing to go over. I think I've called the over on this one a couple times. I like Golden State and Phoenix on Sunday to go over. Two teams, no defense. Two teams that really like to chuck the ball. Fast-paced offenses. I'll take my chances with the total going over on that Sunday game. And that's it for Sunday, Joe.
And like I said, I got a little too excited, tried to get ahead of myself, but that presumed tanking angle will benefit the Atlanta Hawks over the Boston Celtics, the Grizzlies over the Pistons, or against the Pistons, and the Suns versus the Warriors. In addition, very rare when you have such a gap like this, but home teams with 36 fewer wins than their opponent, 40-29 in the history of my database. So a rare system, but again, it makes sense. It's consistent with what I've really discovered in every sport. As I said, the college football seems to be the one momentum sport, but every other sport's more about regression to the mean. So significantly inferior home teams are actually a pretty good bet against the spread. Well, like I said, we're going to return on Monday, and then we'll take a look at the final regular season games, and of course join us for the NBA playoffs. But first, Troy, why don't you tell them what they can get at TroyWins.com?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We've really picked it up in baseball. 3 straight winning days. NBA, we've been a little bit quiet. As I've said in these videos, you really got to be selective this time of year in the NBA, just with all the lineup changes, guys resting, teams tanking. We've touched on all of that, but it's a really selective time. Very much gearing up for the NBA playoffs. But come take a look at what we're doing at TroyWins.com. If you come take a look, we're happy to give you a free trial, whether that's a few days or even a week. We'll take good care of you. That's TroyWins.com.
And yet, OffshoreInsiders.com, it's been tremendous, both in the NBA, college basketball. Double check my site. I've got the exact record there, but I think it's something like 26-5 the last 31 NBA. Nice sweep in Major League Baseball yesterday, including a huge underdog on Baltimore, plus the 210. We've got great systems, metrics, etc. OffshoreInsiders.com, been winning since 1988. So make sure you do visit me at OffshoreInsiders.com. And like I said, Troy and I, we will be back here on Monday to take a look at the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday portfolio as the NBA season winds down.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.